In my work, I'm a leadership facilitator and coach, and that's what I do for a living in corporates for a major global, and love what I do because I get to change lives every day in all sorts of ways. This model is actually by a guy called Patrick Lencioni. Anyone heard of him? Yeah. So some of you may know this model. I use it all the time. I think it is the most simplest way to talk about how to get a great team to a high-performing team and get great results. You ready for it?
Yes.
Cool. The basis, the foundation of any team, of any relationship, is trust. Part of sharing your story, part of being reciprocal and hearing someone else's story, part of the activity we've already done this morning is actually about building some of that trust. It's when you go first. How many of you have ever been in an intimate relationship? I don't want to know details, but just, maybe I'll ask details later, but not now. So at some point, you made a decision to trust that person, and you put yourself out there, right? And it's pretty scary, initially. If you've done it there, it's much easier to do it at the crew room, because we're not actually asking you for intimacy. Maybe after the crew party, later, way later. But trust is one of those intangible but absolutely necessary skills. You can build trust in everything you do. And there are times when you will break trust. And I always think of it back like the old credibility bank account. How much of my trust am I depositing so that if any time I need to take a withdrawal, because sometimes you do need to have a conversation that might be hard and you take a bit of a hit, you've got a healthy balance. Because we all want healthy balances in our bank accounts, right?
Right.
So trust is really important. For your teams, it's about sharing who you are. You know, I coach senior leaders and senior executives, and often they're too rules bound about not sharing their personal life and who they are. But as soon as you do that, you kind of open the floodgates. And that's really important. And from a great deal of trust, knowing that each other's got each other's back and feeling wonderful about it, that's when you can have wonderful conversations. How many of you feel like you've got some great trusting relationships in your life right now? Wonderful. So by the end of 5 days, you'll have another 300 of them. Is that okay? So trust, incredibly critical. The next thing that's even more important is if we have great trust, we can have productive conflict. Now, we are all strong-minded, opinionated, robust, fabulous individuals, and that doesn't mean we're always going to agree. True? But if we've got trust in the relationship, we can have a productive conflict. We can brainstorm. We can actually, get curious about each other's point of view and maybe come up with a different solution. Or at some point, as a leader, you may need to call it and say, appreciate your point of view and I'm going to make this call. But there's some trust there. Teams that have got lots of conflict and are toxic, the ones you put your hand up for about earlier, often don't have trust. So think of this as a buildable skill. For me, being able to have a robust conversation and walk away from it unharmed, which is important, is a sign of a really good relationship. And I know all of you have had really interesting arguments in your life, and if they've been really productive, hasn't that made the relationship stronger? You've kind of cleared the air and made it all wonderful. So productive conflict and being able to have that and not be wedded to your outcome alone is really important. Anyone know what the next one is?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Someone may have remembered from a long time ago. If we build trust, if we have trust, and we have the ability to have courageous conversations, people are more committed to the relationship, more committed to the team. The more committed they are, the more they will also hold each other to account. Accountability comes next. It's a buildable skill. When teams hold each other and they're committed, they will hold each other. You know what? You were going to be here at 12 o'clock. That was your commitment to me. We've got to hold each other to account here. What are we going to do? How can I help you? What else can we do? being able to have that level, the team will hold each other to account. As leaders, if we get them to this point, it's freaking awesome. They kind of self-manage because they're holding and they're committed to the outcome. Now, I've got a big advantage in being in this room. You guys are already committed to being here. So it's kind of a cheat's way out. So I'm kind of backfilling some of the steps so you guys feel courageous, but I'm really, really lucky that because of the big man, you guys are already here and you're already committed to being here. So I honour that, but I also don't dismiss it because I also think we still need to build trust across the team. And the last thing that we ever have, and this is always really interesting for business owners and corporate leaders, is results. If a team trusts one another, if they can have courageous conflict, if they're committed to the ideals, committed to our work of changing lives, they'll hold each other to account to get the results we require. And that's how it works. And that's what the essence of a high-performing team is really all about. And that's what's exciting for me. In my work, in my life, being a coach and talking to lots of senior leaders, people often come in and talk about that they're not getting the results. And I always know that if they're not getting the results, I have to go back here first. Because if this isn't here, then this isn't happening. And the whole thing builds on one another. But that's where I get called in. Or if they're smart, they're like, we're just not getting delivered, we're not holding each other account, I have to nag them to get things done. Again, back to the beginning, where's the trust in the team? How do we build the trust in the team? How can we get them to know one another well enough to actually hold each other? Is this making sense?
Yes.